Hi, welcome to episode 13 of the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm Julie.
I'm Laura.
Thanks for joining us. Today we are talking about happiness.
Yep.
Do we want to recap anything from last week? You got anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you hadn't caught last week's episode, we were talking about overwhelm and getting everything out of your head and into something visual that you can see. There is a brain dump PDF, printable PDF for free on myinnerstruggle.com. You can download that, print it out, and basically put everything that's in your head down on paper so you can begin to prioritize all those to-dos that you have in your head. And while you're there, check out the blog for sure.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you put the PDF up there because it really helps to just kind of start the process.
It's just like
It's a
little
great tool.
resource.
Yeah.
It really helps to write it down. And there's a bunch of other resources on there for free as well, including my self-love club guide and some other meditation things and an adult sort of like meditation coloring book.
I want to know where she was
like
going
that.
with that. And there's an adult. I'm like, ooh.
Not that website.
Wrong site.
So definitely go to myinnerstruggle.com and check that out. Print out whatever, free resources you want to. So yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's dive into happiness.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on happiness?
So by definition in the Webster Dictionary, happiness is defined as a state of well-being and contentment. Which I think is a really good explanation for it. I know that sounds kind of silly to say. It's like stating the obvious.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think the biggest thing that I've heard from clients and people that have encountered throughout the years is that they're like, okay, so what is happiness? Am I happy right now?
Yeah.
Am I just questioning that?
How do you know?
Like, what's happening? Yeah, like what is happiness? And really, ultimately, it's up to you and what brings you contentment.
Right. So happiness is a choice.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So you can choose to be happy and content and fulfilled, or you can choose not to be, and I think that it's an active choice. You have to choose that you want to be happy. And I'm not saying it's an easy choice, and I know that, different people struggle with different, depression and stuff like that. That's a whole different level of
extenuating circumstances.
I agree.
That you may have to deal with. The person that is homeless that has to find their food every day may have a different view of happiness as someone that, doesn't have to work, and just kind of takes care of the house, during the day. And so the thing is that both of those examples may have the same amount of trouble finding their own happiness.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's all relative to your situation. But by far it is a choice without
Absolutely.
a doubt. Yes.
I'm going to do my quote now,
Okay.
only because I think it ties right in, and it's actually Bob Hope said it.
Okay.
So, he said, "Be happy with what you have while you work on what you want," which I think kind of goes with a lot of the podcasts that we've done so far. It's all about like finding your more, finding your what's next, being happy with yourself and your relationships, and navigating, all of it together, and to try to do it with gratitude and positivity. And
it's a mindset, basically.
Yeah.
Everything that we talk about is a mindset and a choice. So you can either choose to work on something or you choose not to work on something,
which is a choice, because you've told me doing nothing is a choice. Right.
Exactly.
So either way, you're choosing.
So part of so some people will say, like, well, how do I know if I'm happy? Or like, what is it that I want? Right. So just to flip back, if you've been watching for a while, our third episode, I think it was, I wrote it down here. Creating space. So in order to figure out what it is that makes you happy, it helps to kind of clear the decks and figure out and, get rid of all of the static and the negative energy in your life, if that's possible. It's really hard sometimes to do that, And when we can often find ourselves in life sort of surrounded by negativity, and that definitely has happened to me. And I found myself after a couple years in a job, like why I'm thinking like these people. And that's what happens, I've said it before, I've, in the podcast and in the blog, that you are the 5 people that you surround yourselves with. So if you are surrounded, look around the room, look around the lunch table, look around, drinks after work, you are surrounded, you are a makeup of those 5 people. Are they all negative?
Yeah.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
And so when you then decide to make that choice and become happy, again, we've covered this before, those people may have something to say. They're going to challenge you. They could be mean to you. They could say anything that comes out of their mouth.
Right.
Yes, because it's really a reflection of themselves, not of you. Because if you change, that makes them look inward as well. Right. And like, well, why am I not changing? There's nothing wrong with me. You're dumb. Like all of these things. So make the choice anyway.
Yeah.
Life is too short.
Life is too short. And to the flip side of your point, yes, you are. So if those 5 people are negative people, but then you have 5 people who are positive people, then your life just seems to be that much more elevated and content. And, you seem, for me personally, I surround myself with, pretty positive. I mean, you're pretty positive. So it's just, and everybody has bad days, and that's not what I mean. I just mean kind of like, as a whole,
authentically and genuinely happy, not on the surface. Like, look at my brand new car. I'm so excited. I went shopping today. Not on the surface. I'm talking about the integrity of the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Are they good
important.
people?
Yeah.
Are they, are you friends with, somebody that, appears positive and happy all the time, but they're really like embezzling in their company or something like that? Like,
I am not friends. I'm not friends with anybody like
not
that.
a good person, So
their core has to be,
fundamentally, are they a good person, and are they supportive? And on top of that, even those people that you surround yourself with, you should never be at that top tier person, like the most evolved or the most whatever. They should be challenging you. They should be sort of like above you, which kind of sounds kind of funny.
Levitate you up.
To challenge you to raise up yourself and everything about you. And, we have, and I'm talking about your core circle of friends. Right. I'm not talking about, I definitely have friends that I've had for like 20 plus years that we might not talk every day, but fundamentally they were good. I hate saying this, they served a purpose at the time, but we still connect, and it doesn't even matter. I went to the doctor last night, and I ran into an old boss of mine, and it was kind of like I was walking out, she was walking in, and she's like, oh my God, and I haven't talked to her in years really. And it was like awesome. And now we're going to reconnect and probably grab a drink.
That's awesome.
And she was a great positive influence in my life at the time, and life happens and whatever. And so I'm really excited because she was, just like anybody else that's like important, a very pivotal part of my own transformation for sure.
Yeah. No, I always think that that's great when you reconnect with somebody from your past who was a positive influence,
not like the one that were dragging you down.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So as I was, kind of prepping my way through our podcast today, I Googled a bunch of different like happiness and how to be happy. What are the keys to happiness? And so actually 3 keys that I were like, oh, it made so much sense when I read it, but the first one is pleasure, like finding pleasure in things that you do, not just going through the motions of doing something to be doing it, but actually, in enjoying what you're doing, makes you happy. And then engagement, being engaged in your interests, in your relationships, being present, being there, and then the third one was meaning. It's like, is what you're doing, do you find meaning in it? Is there meaning? Do others find meaning in things that you do for them? And those are all just different kind of keys to, not flip a switch and make you happy, but help you onto that path.
Yeah. So I just wrote a newsletter and a blog about this not that long ago. Find something that makes you feel that passion and fire and energy inside. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like it could be, and you know what? One person's happiness looks different than the one next to them, and
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
okay. But if taking pictures like really excites you, and that was one of the things that kind of got me through those lonely times of divorce, was like when I didn't have the kids, I grabbed my camera and I like taking pictures of like landscapes and water, like
Yeah.
something with water, a sunset, total sucker for a sunset, the woods, you know, but a beautiful view.
Mhm.
And you know what? That's passion. That,
Yeah.
you know, grabbing your camera and racing against the sunset, like making sure, like those are those beautiful moments that
Mhm.
you want to keep recreating, and you can work that into your everyday. No, do you always have an hour to go photograph a sunset? Not necessarily, but you can be thinking about where you want to
Yeah.
go and planning that and planning something around that, and that can bring you joy every single day. And that's
Right.
just like one little thing.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, maybe you like to build model trains, maybe you like to draw, maybe, you know,
What a bait.
anything.
Yeah. Anything. Yeah. No.
Just,
I
yeah.
think that the anticipation of being able to like you said, if you're planning out, okay, well, I'm
Right,
going to go
'cause
here, then
that's
that is creating that happiness,
yes.
you know, and kind of that serenity around what you love and what you're passionate about and what brings you joy, you
Right.
know, which I think all feeds into.
I think, you know, there's this big term right now called like midlife. And I know midlife has been around a long time, but in the coaching world, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I mean, that people talk about midlife. And midlife, I think, gets earlier and earlier. And there's a lot of people resetting their careers, resetting, you know, their marriages, or,
Yeah.
you know, or getting divorced, or some maybe never got married and now they're like, oh, okay, now
I'm
it's not
ready.
too late, or
Yeah.
whatever, you know, deciding to quit a job and go work remote somewhere or move or whatever. And there's this big movement of midlife. And it makes so much sense because you reach a certain point and you're like, shit, I'm halfway through life. Now what?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I don't think you really have to be at midlife. So I think there's been some studies shown like recently that it's really like as you're approaching, you know, in like your early 30s and like sort of resetting. That's why I said it's midlife, but it's not really midlife.
Yeah.
And I think it's just opening your eyes to so many other things that are out there, and people are trying to focus. And I'm being very general because these are the things that I follow because of my mindset. Right. It may not be like that for the next person that watches CNN most of the time or something. That's not me.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I see a lot of this, and people are going through their own reset to find their happiness and really get the most out of your life. But at the same time, there's a balance of being realistic. We have to be able to support ourselves.
Right.
If we have children, you know, support them and provide them with, you know, safety and all of that. But it's all possible. That's the funny part. And like, so I just spent my morning this morning talking entrepreneurship with, you know, another business owner, and kind of leading into some big ideas. And it's just really exciting because there's this whole other world out there of the balance that you can be happy and do what you love to do and make a living at it. And this is my life, you know,
Yeah.
and it's very, very exciting. And it's a project and state of life that I'm very passionate about. And so I think that's why I feel so good now.
Yeah.
If I had started this a year ago, I was like kind of a crumbling mess. I was in that change state. And
Well, there was so much unknown.
Right. I had made the change. I had made my decision, taken the leap. But, you know, change is messy.
Yeah.
And it isn't linear. It goes up and down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of outside pressures. And I do have 3 kids, you know. And so being in this state of happiness, I don't think I've ever felt like this before in my life. And it feels really, really good.
Which is how you're able to successfully coach other people and be able to elevate and bring up the people that you talk to, because you have done the work on yourself, which, you know, still work in progress, of course.
Always.
But you're able to kind of like see it now, right? You know, and I think that that's a big thing, because sometimes when you make a leap, there's a lot of self-doubt that creeps in, and you're like, oh, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? Like, you know, so sometimes that can kind of kill your happiness before you can really decide
So
how it's going to
I
work
would
out.
venture to say that 9 times out of 10 at this very table where I coached my clients, it's people that have gotten to the same point in their life where I have, which makes sense because that's,
you're attracting.
yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So, that they're like, I don't know what makes me happy. Right. So I have no idea. I've been on autopilot and that's where I was 8 years ago. I kind of woke up and I'm like, this is not where I want to be.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly
where it is
to go.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so much digging and searching within yourself to figure out these things. But when you start really small about and pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings, and your body will physically tell you when you're in a space that you're not supposed to be in, your body literally tells you that.
Yeah.
So if you wake up with anxiety every day and
your stomach always hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're dreading who you're waking up next to, if you're dreading the job that you're driving to, if you're like all of those things, it's telling you something. So listen, it's not, I know that changing a job can be scary. I know that divorce can be scary. Maybe divorce isn't really it. Maybe it's better communication.
Yeah.
maybe it's just opening that lineup. Maybe it's the insecurity that you feel within yourself, which was kind of a big problem that I had for a long time. And I wasn't happy with myself. And so it was a lot of things that I had to work on within me. And so maybe that's it. But when you start doing all of these things that bring you joy, you'll see how good it feels. And it sort of like spills out into the other areas of your life.
Right.
And if it's a job, there are so many jobs out there. Like, that's not an excuse. There are so many jobs out there. And that's like another one of my passions is connecting people.
Yeah.
So like I meet so many people networking now, and I have like all these like cards and everything like in my office because, somebody coaching a client will be sitting here and they're like, oh, I know I need to work on my business. And, it's a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I see a theme growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, they're like, the same struggles that I have building my business. Like I'm doing all of the things myself, and it's really hard to get to the point where you can, hand off things, and stuff like that. So that's a learning process as a business owner as well. But connecting those people with like, oh, here's a digital marketer that I know, or who,
here's a graphic designer or whatever, admin.
And it helps. And, there's room for everyone. It doesn't really matter. We all have our special talents, to quote Buddy the Elf, right? So like we all have that thing that's about us that no one else can replace.
Right. Well, because everybody's unique, and like you said, everybody brings something new and different, and
right.
No, I 100% agree.
So it's kind of funny because like for a long time on my dating profile, I don't have one right now.
Yeah.
But like for a long time, my dating profile, one of the things that I would say, and I can remember saying this, it was probably a good like 6 years ago, is I love, and I've been saying it ever since, I love meeting someone and having a conversation over a delicious meal and both walking away better people, period. It is eye-opening. And so what's funny is when I was dreaming up this podcast like 6 years ago, I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I had so many great conversations at my kitchen table. And I really thought that's what this was going to be. Like conversations at the kitchen table. That's what my podcast was.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do it. I don't know. Maybe next week we want to sit at my kitchen table.
No, next week we're going to go to the beach.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So, I mean, I would love to do the podcast from the beach. I just don't know if you'll hear us.
Yes, that's true. Plus it's a day late.
I guess we'll have to go to the beach twice.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds good. But yeah.
That's
so
fantastic,
I think just filling your life with little passionate moments.
Yeah.
And letting go of yourself, because we're all like, when you're stressed out and like work and whatever, and you bring it home and you're just like this ball of like anxiousness.
Yeah.
And when it's almost like getting a massage, right?
Yeah.
So like if you think about that philosophically, right?
Yeah.
Like massage out your anxiety, like because it loosens everything up. And if you come home and you're one thing in my marriage, I know like my ex-husband would call me, and it was not in the happy part of our marriage. My kids were little and it was stressful, right?
Yeah.
And he would call me when he was coming home from work, and I knew I was going to anticipate that call, and I was so jealous that he got to be in the car for an hour by himself, and I know that I'm not the only mom that thinks that way. And
No.
you'd answer the phone and you're like, hello,
Yeah.
and it's like, I was just so angry. And so what I really needed, I wasn't asking for. And where was I going with this? I have no idea. I have no idea. It just totally, I just totally lost it. But it's kind of like one of, like just loosen up. So if he had
Oh,
come
you're talking about
home,
massage.
and
Yeah.
if I had communicated with him at the time, and I didn't have the tools, I
Right.
didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
If I had communicated with him and just said, you know what, I just really need a really big hug.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a hard day. I just need a hug that would have like let me like loosen and like have a nice conversation with him.
Yeah.
But instead we were both like at this like weird stage.
Kind of afraid to set each other off. So you
think about your life the same way. If you're
Yeah.
all balled up and mad
Yeah.
about every little aspect, or the asshole that cut you off in traffic,
Yeah.
to, why didn't the kids put their bikes away and they're in the driveway? Like, just let it go.
Yeah.
Release that and move forward. Because when we let that negative and anxious energy go, we feel so much
better.
Yeah.
Ways to be able to kind of, I don't want to say make yourself happy, because that's not what I'm trying to say, but like different tools that you can use to, if you practice them every day, like affirmations, big one, you know what I mean? And we've talked about that, a lot. Treat yourself well. So what do we say all the time? You're the voice. What is it? You're the voice you hear the most, right?
Yeah. Your own voice is what you
hear the most.
Yeah.
So treat yourself well. Speak to yourself kindly. If you wouldn't say it to the person you love the most, don't say it to yourself, and manage your energy, which I think goes to a lot like what you were just saying. If you're feeling all of that angst and, whatever it is, like for you, it could be a hug. For me, like, don't touch me. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
we've
not a
talked about
physical,
that
like,
before.
don't touch me when I'm like that. I just need a minute,
Right.
But even like yesterday, like I had a million things happening, and like I got hit with a couple things that I wasn't expecting, which changes stuff around. And, I'm trying to like get dinner going and blah, blah, blah. And, and Jeremy's standing next to me and he's like, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm like, just get out of my way. And he's like, oh, okay, then, and then, so he knows, he's like, all right, I'm just going to run down. And
space.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to run down and go do something at the firehouse and I'll be back. Cause he knows, like, for me, I just need a minute to just stop and just kind of be in my own, like, okay, everything's going to get worked out. You don't have to figure it out.
Work through it.
Yeah. But like, yeah, don't touch me.
That is like what and it took me a really long time to realize that. But I think it's sort of like my inner child, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just, like, at the end of the day, if I could get like a really big bear hug, that would make my life better. So I get that from Evelyn as my pride hugger.
So cute.
Perfect amount of squeeze. It's good.
So cute. All right, so next week, I can't even believe how fast these conversations go.
Yeah.
It's like a blink of an eye.
Well,
and
it's a good thing.
I know, but it's so fast. So next week, we're going to talk all about simplifying your life.
Yes. And I think that'll be a good follow-up to happiness. Absolutely.
Yeah. And try, like, this week, like, think about things that make you happy or what you're passionate about. Write them down. Laura, write them down.
Write them down.
And then just think of one that you can put into action, whether you're doing it now or I love your photography example, because like you said, even if you don't have an hour to go do it, plan out when you will have an hour. You've got to be able to plan out.
So many of us have, we're working, we have children, whatever.
Well, in this time of year,
just run away, to do whatever. But you can put time into creating that hobby. Absolutely. And I also want to say, like, if you're enjoying the content that we share here, if you're, if you're having a laugh, if you're learning something, if you're just having a great time, please share it with a friend. That would help greatly, either on social media or just in a text message, to your Aunt Sally, whoever.
I love Aunt Sally.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah,
that's good.
And make sure you follow the My Inner Struggle podcast on YouTube if you're watching it there, or listen on Spotify. Check out the blog at myinnerstruggle.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep. And be on the lookout for some beach photos. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
Have a great week.
Bye.